Hi, pre-calculus students. Welcome to section 4.2. This is video A. There will be a video B, simply because I have to write kind of big on the board and there's not enough room. So let's take a look at problem number 1 that you'll find in this section. So you know your unit circle, right? I do recommend you will be quizzed on memorization on the unit circle because it's so important. So I do recommend when you're doing these problems that you don't use your unit circle, that you try to get these values on your own from your brain or the first quadrant that's on the left hand. That will really get your memorization going. So how do I find the 6 trig values from angles in the first quadrant or at quadrantal angles? So quadrantal angles would be at 0, pi over 2, pi, and 3 pi over 2. So how do I get the basics? So we're going to do example 12. It does say the 6 trig values. They are just asking us for cosine and sine. So maybe we'll get a few more from that. So what is the answer to that when you're looking for trig values that are in the first quadrant or on the quadrantal angles? You use the unit circle that's in your brain, or you use your left hand. So let's take a look at example 12. Find the point xy on the unit circle where t, that's the angle, is pi over 3. So notice we talked about on the unit circle that x is cosine and that y is sine for good reason. And so I know what cosine of pi over 3 is. On my left hand, here's my pi over 3 angle finger, and cosine is the top fingers and sine are the bottom fingers. And so cosine of pi over 3 is the square root of 1 over 2. It's always over 2, right? Which is 1/2. Sine, right, was the bottom fingers. So that would be the square root of 3 over 2. There we go. Now tangent of pi over 3 is sine divided by cosine. So you could just take the square root of 3 divided by 2, the square root of 3 over 2 divided by 1/2, and that would get you tangent, or tangent is on the back of your left hand. So let's put in our pi over 3 finger. We flip our hand over. Tangent is the square root of the top fingers divided by the square root of the bottom fingers, which is the square root of 3. There we go. And then what I could do to get the other 3 trig functions, secant would just be the reciprocal of cosine. Cosecant would be the reciprocal of sine with some rationalizing the denominator. And cotangent would be the reciprocal of tangent. Number 2, how do I find any of the 6 trig functions in quadrants 2, 3, and 4? So over here on 1, we took care of quadrant 1 and the quadrantal angles. What if your angle is in quadrant 2, 3, or 4? So here's what we do. We draw our angle. We find our reference angle. That is the positive angle between the terminal side of your angle that you drew and the x-axis. And then we find the trig values of the reference angle as if we were in quadrant 1. And then we just determine the sign of our trig values. Are they positive or negative based on the quadrant that we're actually located in? So here's number 14. Find the point xy on the unit circle at t equals 5 pi over 6. So in your book, they were just asking for cosine of 5 pi over 6 and sine of 5 pi over 6. We will also do tangent and we know what we would do to get the reciprocal functions. Okay, so the first thing I do is I'm just going to draw a picture here of, I'm going to rotate 5 pi over 6, right? Pi over 6, right? That's 30 degrees, and I have 5 of them, right? So I'm going to rotate 5. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. So I landed right here. Here's 5 pi over 6. Now notice that I was 1 pi over 6 short of pi, making it to pi, right? Because that would have been 6 pi over 6. This is my reference angle. It is always positive, okay? So, oh, I kind of wrote where I'm supposed to write my values. Anyway, so what do I do then? There we go. To get cosine of 5 pi over 6. Okay, I use my reference angle and I first find cosine of pi over 6. Remember, all the values that take place on the unit circle are located in the first quadrant. So I'm just using first quadrant angles to find any trig value on the unit circle. So I'm first going to find cosine of pi over 6. So I'm going to put my pi over 6 finger in, right? Cosine is the square root of 3 over 2. Okay. And then I say, but what quadrant am I in? I am actually in the second quadrant. Notice cosine would be negative in the second quadrant because the x's are negative there. Another way that we probably talked about is all students take calculus. All students take calculus, and this tells you what trig values are positive. All of them in the first quadrant, just sine in the second, just tangent in the third, and just cosine in the fourth. But we know x's are cosine and sine is y. And so we know what quadrant we're in and if x's and y's are positive or negative. Sine of 5 pi over 6, I'm first going to do sine of pi over 6. That would be 1/2. I am actually in the second quadrant and my y's are positive. So is my sine of 5 pi over 6. So tangent of pi over 6, right, is the square root of 3 over 3. And tangent is sine divided by cosine, which is a positive divided by a negative. And so it is negative. I could also get the other 3 reciprocal functions just by taking the reciprocal values. There. Thanks for joining me on 4.2a. Next is 4.2b.